All right, guys, we are on the last chapter of A Bear Named Trouble. We are on chapter 14, Home. And remember, yesterday we talked about making predictions. Making a prediction means that you're going to take what you know about what's already happened in the book, take what you know about animals, take what you know about zoos, and make a prediction, make a guess about what you think will happen based on what you already know. So with this chapter being titled Home, and thinking about what we already know, I wanted you to make a prediction about what you think will happen in this chapter, whose home they're talking about, where the home is. So let's find out. Jonathan taped the last box and carried it to the trailer that they would pull back to Anchorage. "Can we go now?" he asked. "To the zoo?" his mother smiled. It was a tired smile. They had been packing and loading for 2 days, but it was nonetheless a smile. "Sure," she said. "Our last official act before leaving Duluth will be a walk through the zoo." So they are back in Duluth, where Mom and Rhonda were getting them packed up. Jonathan and his father had flown back to Duluth to help Mom and Rhonda pack. Now they would all drive to Anchorage. But first, Jonathan did a little jig right there on the sidewalk. They were going to visit Trouble. Can you believe that after all this, how mad he was, how upset he was, how much he disliked Trouble, that now he wants to go see him? How thrilled Jonathan had been when his dad had told him that the Lake Superior Zoo would take Trouble. The Duluth Zoo even had a celebration when the bear arrived, complete with a band playing "You Got Trouble" from the Music Man. Jonathan wished that they had been back in time to see it. Dad said that when the veterinarian tranquilized Trouble to give him a thorough check, she had discovered his broken jaw. So you guys probably all know what a veterinarian is. So that is a doctor that takes care of animals. So why do you think the veterinarian would have to tranquilize Trouble? Do you think that you could do an examination on a bear that was wide awake and fully functioning? That would be dangerous. So they tranquilized him, they kind of put him to sleep so they can do an exam. And when they did, she found his broken jaw. That was probably the reason she said that he had been searching in town for food in the first place. The jaw was healing, and she put a couple of pulled a couple of misaligned teeth. With that taken care of, Trouble could eat with gusto everything the zookeeper fed him: apples, carrots, potatoes, meat, fish, all of it. So if he eats apples and carrots and meat and fish, what is he? Carnivore, herbivore, or omnivore? "I guess we're ready," Dad said, and they all piled into the car and headed for the zoo. When they arrived, Dad settled Rhonda into her chair, and Jonathan took charge of pushing. She loved having him push because he ran with her when she asked him to, something her parents rarely did. "All set?" he asked. "All set," she replied, and they took off, parents trailing far behind. They came around a corner and through the cement tunnel and screeched to a halt in front of the bear display, and there he was in all his brown furry glory, Trouble. "That's him?" Rhonda asked. "Yep," Jonathan said. "That's Trouble. He looks so..." She stopped and studied the brown bear. He was busy dismembering and eating an orange and didn't look up. "Happy?" Jonathan filled in for her. "Yeah," she said, "like he likes being a zoo bear." Jonathan studied the brownie too. Trouble had finished the orange and was now concentrating on some bread slathered with peanut butter. He looked like any properly zoo-bred bear, and as though this were the life that he had always lived, or maybe the one he had been looking for. So remember we talked back in the beginning of the book about him being sad and having that longing feeling that he was hungry for something. So maybe this was what he was hungry for. "Hi, Trouble," Jonathan said, tapping the glass that separated them from the large area where the bear was displayed. "How you doing, pal?" So see, he's even calling him pal, which means he's done a big turnaround from the part of the book where he just hated Trouble and maybe even wanted him to be destroyed. Now he's visiting and calling him pal. So you think that that means that he has forgiven Trouble for what happened to Mama Goose? Think about that. I mean, think about forgiveness and how you can change your mind, or how your feelings can change about something over time. Trouble sat back on his haunches and looked at his visitors for the first time. He licked peanut butter off his nose, then ambled over to the window, putting a paw on the glass that separated them. He peered first at Rhonda, then at Jonathan. Jonathan put his hand on the other side of the window to meet the paw, and he closed his eyes. He was inside the bear, inside Trouble. So they put their hands up to the glass, and he closes his eyes, and he goes inside Trouble. He could taste peanut butter on his tongue, feel his satisfied belly. "He's looking at us," Jonathan whispered, looking down at Rhonda. "And you know what he's thinking?" "What?" Rhonda asked. Her eyes were shining, as they always did when he started the game. So remember the game that he plays with Rhonda? He's playing that game right now with Trouble on the other side of the glass. "Home," Jonathan said. "Trouble is thinking, at last I'm home." Rhonda grinned and reached for her brother's hand. "And we're going home too, aren't we, Jonathan?" "Yep," he said, turning back to watch their parents' slow approach. They looked happy to be together again too. The whole family were going home. Okay, now we're going to find out how Trouble's feeling. Trouble watched the humans as they moved away. Whether he recognized the boy and remembered him would be impossible to know, but something held his attention. Only after they were out of sight and their scent no longer wafted back to him did he return to the feast waiting for him in his spacious rock and water home. So spacious means it's big. There's lots of space. But now something else prompted him to lift his head and pause. From back in the holding area available to the zoo's visitors, another bear, unavailable to the zoo's visitors. From back in the holding area, unavailable to the zoo's visitors. It was so a place that was not available to visitors, a place where people couldn't go. Another bear's voice rumbled. Trouble had been aware of the other brownie's presence from the beginning. The keepers who brought him food, who moved him out into the open enclosure and back again into his snug den, those same keepers watched over that other bear too. Trouble could hear her at night in the den next to his. He could smell every place that she had been when he came out into the open display, and so he waited patiently in the way of bears for the time when they would meet, for the day when at last he would no longer be alone. So he's going to get a friend. So now he has space, he has food, he has people to take care of him, and he's going to get a friend, which is what he's really wanted all along. So that's a very good ending. I like that. So when we talk tomorrow, I want you to tell me how you feel about the end of the book. Do you like the way that it ended? And if so, why? Or do you not like the ending? And tell me why. Tell me if you think that that's what should have happened to Trouble, because there were a lot of options. He could have been shot and killed. He could have been tranquilized and released back into the wild. He could have been moved to the zoo, like what happened here. So think about how the book ended and tell me tomorrow if you like the ending or not. Okay? And that's it for Bear.